Hello and welcome to the Football News Zone, the show where we take you through the biggest stories in the beautiful game right now. We're heading into the festive period of Premier League fixtures, but which stories have caught our attention this week? This week we react to Sir Jim Ratcliffe saying that Manchester United need to make unpopular and difficult decisions to regain their former glory. Pep Guardiola has said that Manchester City will be his final job in club management, and we also react to UEFA's World Cup qualification groups, which were drawn on Friday. All that and a whole lot more is coming up in today's show. Let's dive in. So the draw for the UEFA qualifying for the 2026 FIFA World Cup has been completed. I'm just going to run through the overall groups and explain why not all of the groups are set in stone yet. It's a bit of a complicated situation. It's to do with our favourite competitive but still kind of friendly that a lot of people don't really care about, but some people probably care about competition, the UEFA Nations League, because a lot of it all depends on that. So I will just go into all the groups. So basically when it comes to qualification in all of these groups, there are 12 qualification groups in total. The winners of all of these groups qualify automatically for the World Cup. Those that finish second in their groups advance through to the playoffs. So they still have a chance of going through, but they have to make it through a playoff to be able to do so. Now let's just walk through this. So first of all, just before I get into Group A, I just want to say that, for example, with this one, we've got the first one being Germany or Italy. The winners of that go into Group A. It's all to do with the Nations League, who goes through from the quarterfinals, I believe it is. That's the current stage. So there are 8 sides still in the UEFA Nations League battling it out to get that title, and depending on what happens in the quarterfinals of those, it determines the placings of these teams in the group. So I hope that makes sense. So whoever wins out of Germany and Italy, they go into Group A, and they will play against Slovakia, Northern Ireland and Luxembourg. Just so you guys are aware as well, all of these groups are basically a round robin format. You play every team home and away during these qualifiers. Anyway, Group B, we have Switzerland, Sweden, Slovenia and Kosovo. Group C is Portugal and Denmark, whichever one loses their quarterfinal, and Greece, Scotland and Belarus. Group D is the winners of either France or Croatia against Ukraine, Iceland and Azerbaijan. Group E is the either Spain or the Netherlands winners, Turkey, Georgia and Bulgaria. Group F is the winners out of Portugal and Denmark. Hungary, the Republic of Ireland and Armenia are the other 3 teams in that. The losers from Spain, Netherlands are in Group G, along with Poland, Finland, Lithuania and Malta. Now you might notice that these groups from now on have 5 teams in them. The first ones that we mentioned only have 4. Then in Group H, it is Austria, Romania, Bosnia and Herzegovina, that's one country together, Cyprus and San Marino. The mighty San Marino in Group H. Hey, they're only 2 or 3 games away from being able to qualify for the World Cup because of the Nations League promotion, but yeah, I don't think that's going to happen, sadly, unfortunately for them. Group I is the losers out of Germany or Italy, as well as Norway, Israel, Estonia and Moldova. Group J is Belgium, Wales, North Macedonia, Kazakhstan and Liechtenstein. Group K, England. They will play against Serbia, Albania, Latvia and Andorra. You couldn't really wish for an easier qualification group there. Tuchel has to breeze through that, surely. And the final group, Group L, it's either the losers of, either France or Croatia, Czech Republic, or Czechia as they prefer to be called these days, Montenegro, the Faroe Islands and Gibraltar. So there we go, guys, all of the qualifying groups for these. They will start, if they're in a group of 5, they will start qualifying in March, and those that are drawn into a group of 4, they start their campaigns in September 2025. All of the groups finish their qualifying in November 2025, so it comes quick, it comes very does the qualification. So yeah, it's going to come as very fast there, and yeah, a lot of it depends in terms of who the top teams are on the, you know, what happens in the Nations League basically. But yeah, I hope that's a nice rundown for you guys. England fans, what do you think about your groups? Hey, I've got quite a few people from the UK in general, so Scotland, Ireland, Northern Ireland and Wales as well. I know Ireland is not part of the UK, but I know I have a lot of viewers from there, so that's what I'm just saying before anybody calls me out. The UK and Ireland, I get a lot of viewers from there on here, so yeah, let us know your thoughts in the comments below about your groups, whether you think you're going to make it through, and if you don't think you're going to make it through, let me know why. I want to hear your reasons. Be positive, come on, you can make it, come on, it's the biggest World Cup ever, there's more spots than ever, now's your chance. So, interesting, Pep Guardiola apparently has confirmed that Manchester City will be his final club management role and has hinted as a possible manager for a national team in the future. Which one? Well, let's read on. Let's have a look at what's been said here on thefootballchronicle.com, guys. Full article as always. Manchester City manager Pep Guardiola has revealed that his current position will be his final role in club football before he potentially pursues a career coaching a national team. The 53-year-old Spaniard, who has won 15 major trophies since taking charge of Manchester City in 2016, recently signed a 2-year contract extension with the club until the summer of 2027. In a YouTube interview with celebrity chef Danny Garcia, Guardiola made clear that he has no intention of managing another club after his time at Manchester City comes to an end, whether in the Premier League or abroad. "I'm not going to manage another team," he said. "I'm not going to talking about the long-term future, but what I'm not going to do is leave Man City, go on to another country and do the same thing as now." The former Barcelona and Bayern Munich boss cited a lack of energy as the main reason for his decision, stating, "I wouldn't have the energy. The thought of starting somewhere else, all the process of training and so on, no, maybe another national team, but that's different." Guardiola also hinted at the possibility of taking a break from football altogether once he steps down at City, saying, "I want to leave it and go play golf, but I can't if he takes a club job. I think stopping would do me good. And he did take a year sabbatical after managing FC Barcelona, I believe it was, before managing Bayern Munich. I know it was between one of the jobs. He took an entire year. He was in New York, of all places. Decided to chill there for a little bit. The revelation comes amid the challenging period for Manchester City, who have won just once since Guardiola extended his contract, and only once in 9 games since beating Southampton on the 26th of October. The victory came at home against Nottingham Forest last Wednesday, but it was followed by a 2-2 draw away to Crystal Palace over the weekend. City now face a crucial week with a Champions League clash against Juventus on Wednesday and a Manchester derby against United in the Premier League on Sunday. Guardiola, speaking in his pre-game news conference, emphasised the importance of him focusing on one game at a time, given the team's recent form. And you can watch that press conference on thefootballchronicle.com in its entirety, courtesy to a UEFA for providing us with that resource there. Always appreciated, guys. Right now, we are not in the position, when we have had the results we've had in the last 7-8 games, to talk about winning games in plural. We have to win the game and not look at what happens in the next one yet. Guardiola's announcement about his future plans has sparked speculation about who might eventually succeed him at Manchester City and which national team he could potentially manage in the future. The Spaniard's decision to rule out a return to club football after his time at City also highlights the immense pressure and demands placed on top-level managers in the modern game. I mean, yeah, look at his hairline. He don't have one. But in all seriousness, I can imagine it's incredibly stressful, yeah. As Manchester City continues to navigate a challenging period, both domestically and in Europe, Guardiola's focus will undoubtedly remain on turning the club's fortunes around and adding to its already impressive trophy haul before he eventually steps away from club management. Right, well, interesting stuff. I had no idea the man had been on a cooking show, going out and making some patatas bravas. No idea. Maybe I reckon Guardiola make a nice paella. What do you guys reckon? I think he would, to be honest. Oh, I love a paella. I'm absolutely starving. Can you guys tell? Thinking about food. But in all seriousness, I mean, I get it. I mean, at the end of the day, right, he's won everything with Barcelona. He's won everything with Man City. He won everything but the Champions League with Bayern Munich. Like, where's he going to go? He did speak, interestingly, he did speak very complimentarily about, he did speak in very complimentary terms about Juventus this week. I mean, it might just be kind of buttering them up before they're playing in the Champions League, but maybe going to Italy be the next one. That's kind of the next league down the ladder, really. But does he want to go down the ladder? Probably not. He's 53. He'll be 55, 56 by the time his Man City contract ends. Interestingly, that's kind of between the next World Cup and the next Euros. Who does he go and manage? Well, you might think, oh, well, he's Spanish, so probably might go and manage Spain, but I don't think that's ever going to happen. I would never call him Spanish personally, even though he competed for the Spanish national team, even though his passport will say he's Spanish. I would definitely probably rather refer to him as a Catalan, because at the end of the day, Catalonia, for you guys that don't know, before we get into Spanish history and politics, it's basically a separate region. It'd be a bit like if you called a Scotsman English. They wouldn't like it because, one, it's wrong, and two, it's a different thing at the end of the day. It's a bit like that with Catalonia, you know, it's its own separate region, you know. It's part of Spain, but it's not part of Spain. A bit like the Basque Country, Galicia. Spain's got a few of them, to be fair, where, you know, people there identify more with their region than their nation. And Guardiola definitely comes into that camp. What was it now? Didn't he wear that yellow flower as a message of support to the people protesting in Catalonia, in Barcelona, which obviously the Spanish authorities would not have appreciated. I'm not saying what Guardiola did was wrong. I fully support his right to do that. It's no different to someone wearing a poppy. You want to wear one? Go for it, mate. No problems with me at all. But at the end of the day, if someone doesn't want to wear a poppy, go for it, mate. None of my business, you know. I've no problem with it. You might like this Christmas jumper, you might not. I don't see an issue with it personally. It's just what it is. It's opinions. But I would never see Guardiola going and managing the Spanish national team. There's always those rumours about him going to manage England, though. Would he want to manage England? I think he might, you know. I think he might. But it also depends on how long Tuchel stays around for. If we flop in the World Cup, Tuchel's gone, I think, straight away. Will we flop in the World Cup? I don't think so. I think England will rightly go in as one of the favourites. The favourites? Probably not. France, Spain, maybe Germany. They're looking pretty good. And you can't discount the likes of Argentina and Brazil. I say Brazil with a grimaced face because Brazil are a bit of a joke, to be honest. But you could never properly rule them out. They're always going to be there or thereabouts, surely. Even as bad as they've been in South American qualifying. So, for me, England. I think he could well manage England one day. But it's all about if the opportunity presents itself. Would Pep turn down the Spanish FA's advances if they went for him? Possibly. With how much of a basket case behind the scenes the Spanish FA is and has been for some time, I think he might well do. Although, on the pitch, Spain are extremely successful right now, so clearly it's not affecting them. But it's all about, does De La Fuente step aside? Does Spain flop at the next World Cup? Does he leave early? Does he leave in 2026? Is that a potential clause in his new contract? We don't know. And then, of course, there's the charges with Manchester City. Do they get relegated? Do they get a points deduction? Does their name get dragged through the mud? Those 115 charges that apparently are now 130 charges according to reports. They've got an additional 15 cases. They're really racking them up now, aren't they? Where's it going to end? There's all that as well, but that's not going to be sorted until, well, even if they get convicted of it, there's going to be appeals. They're going to drag this through the mud as long as possible. So we're talking years. It might not even be finished by the time that Guardiola leaves anyway, and then it's just like mic drop and just exit stage right. I don't know. But what do you guys think? Because I think that's a very interesting comment from Guardiola. He's a man who, when it comes to stuff like this, he means it. So I think Man City will be his final club. How long he'll stay there for, who knows? He might even stay longer than 2028. Could stay until 2030. Next, you know, who knows? The guy's a winning machine right now in Man City. So yeah, I want to hear your thoughts, guys. Let us know in the comments below. So, some interesting comments made over the weekend by Sir Jim Ratcliffe, the head of footballing operations at Manchester United and a minority stake owner in the club. The guy that's basically handling, or at least on the top of the day-to-day running of the club. He said that Man United must make difficult and unpopular decisions to shed mediocrity, kind of adding to the comments from Ruben Amorim, the recently appointed new Manchester United manager, that the club is a huge club, but the team is not a great team, you know, and that's accurate. They are a massive club in every sense of the word. They're one of the biggest clubs in the world. Some people say the biggest, depends how you define it at the end of the day, but financially they are one of the richest clubs in the world. Right now though, on the field they have anything but the best team in the Premier League. They're down in 13th place, and these comments as well with what's happened over this weekend, Dan Ashworth leaving the club of course and losing at home against Nottingham Forest, it's all, what they're saying is making sense. It's just that on the pitch things at the moment need turning around, and it's going to take a lot of time and a lot of money to be able to do that. This is no quick fix, but I'll give my thoughts at the end of the video. Let's dive into this article here on the Football Chronicle though, going over this subject. Sir Jim Ratcliffe, who acquired a 27.7% stake in Manchester United earlier this year, has called for bold and potentially unpopular decisions to be made in order to restore the club's status as a top contender in both English and European football. Speaking to the United We Stand fanzine, Ratcliffe described the current state of the club as mediocre, emphasising the need for significant changes. Manchester United has become mediocre, Ratcliffe said. It is supposed to be one of the best football clubs in the world. We have to make some difficult and unpopular decisions. If you shy away from the difficult decisions, then nothing much is going to change. The billionaire's comments come amidst a challenging year for the Red Devils, which saw the sacking of manager Erik ten Hag as the club faced the prospect of an even lower finish than last season's worst ever Premier League performance, which was 8th by the way. Despite a slight rebound under new manager Ruben Amorim, United remain in the bottom half of the league table, down in 13th as things stand. Ratcliffe's assessment of United's current state underscores the magnitude of the task ahead of the club's leadership. The businessman, who previously expressed his desire to break the recent dominance of Man City and Liverpool, I bet he'd love that, knock them off their perches, now recognises that significant changes are necessary to close the gap between United and their rivals. In the summer, United made the difficult decision to make nearly a quarter of the club's workforce redundant, with the intention of using the saved funds to improve on-field performances. Additionally, the club announced that Sir Alex Ferguson, who has served as an ambassador since his retirement from being the manager in 2013, and after more than 25 years as the manager in total, would no longer continue in his role. These initial steps suggest United's leadership is prepared to make tough choices in their pursuit of success. However, Ratcliffe's comment serves as a reminder that more drastic measures may need to be required to truly transform the club's fortunes. As United navigate this difficult period of transition, fans will be watching closely to see how the club's hierarchy responds to Ratcliffe's call for bold action. The coming months and years will be crucial in determining whether United can reclaim their place among the elite of English and European football, or whether they'll continue to struggle in the face of fierce competition from their rivals. Yeah, so there we go, guys. Basically, I mean, a lot needs to change behind the scenes. Obviously, on the pitch right now, you know, you look at that team and it's like, is it really that much of a surprise they're struggling as much as they are? Would you really say that squad, the whole squad, is much better than the likes of Newcastle, the likes of Tottenham? No, I wouldn't. I mean, I probably would pick United if I had to pick between those three clubs, but I wouldn't say there's a marked difference there. And there is, right, I mean, there used to be a culture. This is one of the biggest things when I can rant about, you know, how things have changed over the last 10 years for Man United, over the last 20 years in truth. It's only just been, you know, an actual negative since Alex Ferguson left, because the guy was a freak. He was an absolute legend, still is an absolute legend, always will be, of course, of English football. But at the end of the day, you know, they had a culture of success. They had a culture of winning under Ferguson, right? They were a winning machine. They were always a tough game. There was no such thing as an easy match against Man United under Alex Ferguson. There just wasn't. Now there is. There are teams that have easy times against Man United. Think what Spurs and Liverpool did to them. Even Forest, to an extent, they didn't have to do much. They barely had any of the ball, barely had any shots, but they won, and they deserved to win. You know, they took their opportunities. United didn't. So right now, unfortunately, to kind of paraphrase Jose Mourinho, former Man United manager, talking about Arsene Wenger at Arsenal, though, but to quote that, they are now having a culture of failure. They are specialists in failure right now, and that's just the way it is. Yeah, they won the FA Cup last season, which was amazing. Of course it was, but you know, that was a relative fluke of a result. Yeah, they deserved it on the day. They were good, but you know, especially when they're playing a bit like Newcastle this season, when they're playing the teams lower down in the table, which there's not many. There's only 7 clubs that are lower down than the table, but whenever they play against those clubs, they don't seem to play particularly well. They're sometimes up it for the big matches, but they seem to be really struggling in those this season too. So yeah, your thoughts in the comments below, guys. What needs to happen next for Man United to be a success? What is the next step along this road? So Jose Mourinho caused a fair amount of controversy earlier this week, basically claiming that he won his Premier League trophies at Chelsea fairly, unlike Pep Guardiola has done at Manchester City, basically saying that he's broken rules, his club have broken financial rules, which of course Manchester City are being investigated for, and now those charges, instead of being 115, are now 130 according to reports. The Premier League must have found 15 more offences. I don't know what those offences are relating to, but they are all relating to PSR. So they could be more alleged financial misconduct, they could be more delay tactics, we don't know what those charges are, and I'm sure that news will come out very soon. But Mourinho has come in for a bit of flack from his comments from some circles, some people saying yeah, he's absolutely right, and some people saying no, that's a bit ironic given that you won your trophies with Chelsea, who basically had a bunch of money pumped into the club by Roman Abramovich. How is it different to what Manchester City are doing? Which is a fair point, but he's wanting to clarify his comments. So let's have a look on what's been said here on thefootballchronicle.com, guys. Full article as always. Fenerbahce manager Jose Mourinho has responded to Manchester City boss Pep Guardiola's claim that he wants to see the English club relegated to League One, stating that his primary concern is justice in football. The Portuguese tactician, who developed a fierce rivalry with Guardiola during his time at Real Madrid between 2010 and 2013, recently reignited tensions by asserting that he won his 3 Premier League titles with Chelsea fairly and cleanly. Guardiola has previously responded to taunts from Liverpool supporters by holding up 6 fingers, signifying the number of titles he won at the Etihad. The Spaniard then suggested that Mourinho's comments were motivated by a desire to see City relegated to a lower division if the club loses its battle against the 115 charges of breaking Premier League financial rules, which are now apparently 130, but we don't have official confirmation of that. However, speaking ahead of Fenerbahce's Europa League match against Athletic Bilbao, Mourinho clarified his stance, saying, "It's not true that I want to see Man City get relegated. It's true that I like justice, and many times small clubs are punished by going 5-10 euros over budget and the rules for financial fair play. For example, I suffered in Roma 3 years with great limitations about it. I don't think that it's fair that the big sharks, and when I say sharks, I say financial sharks, they always find a way to escape the rules. The more money you have, the more easy it is to hide it." That's kind of how it is. You get to a certain financial position and you become invincible, which is what has happened to the likes of PSG, Man City, Real Madrid over the years. That's just a viewpoint that some people have. I'm not saying whether I agree with that or not, but I certainly see where these people are coming from. Mourinho, who has managed top clubs such as Chelsea, Real Madrid and Manchester United, emphasised that his love for the sport drives his desire for fairness. "I'm just a football man, a man that loves football. More than being a professional football man, I am very passionate. I just like justice in football. But apart from that, there's no bad feelings," he added. During his pre-match press conference ahead of Wednesday's Champions League clash against Juventus in Turin, Guardiola was not asked about Mourinho's latest comments. However, Mourinho sought to downplay any suggestions of a new rift between the two managers, highlighting their shared history at Barcelona. "In relation to Pep, let me say something. We were together for 3 years at Barcelona," Mourinho said. "I was an assistant and he was a player. I like him a lot and he knows that. He likes me and I know that. There are no problems between us. One thing are words and another thing is deep feelings." As Manchester City faces an uncertain future amid the numerous charges levelled against them by the Premier League, Mourinho's comments have once again brought the issue of financial fairness in football to the forefront. While the Portuguese manager maintains that he desires for justice is not a personal attack on Guardiola or City, the ongoing saga is sure to remain a topic of intense debate within the football community. I mean, for me, with the greatest of respect to Mourinho, he is a stirrer at the end of the day. I think he's seen an opportunity to have a go at Man City and he's done it. And honestly, it's kind of funny. But at the same time, if you actually analyse his comments on the issue, I think it is a bit ironic. Because, like I said, Chelsea had all their money pumped in by Abramovich. Before that, they were a good team. People like to make out like Chelsea were a bad team. You look at Chelsea in the late 90s and the early 2000s before Abramovich came in. They were a good side. They were challenging for... They never won the Premier League during that time, but they were up there in the top 4 quite a bit. You know, you had incredible players like Gianfranco Zola playing their trade at Chelsea as well. It wasn't a flash in the pan. Yeah, before that, early Premier League days, Chelsea were a bit naff, to be honest. They weren't very good, but just before Abramovich came in, they were good. They became a world-class team under Abramovich, though, because of the money. Now, again, the reason why Abramovich was able to do this, for you guys that don't know, back then, there was no limitations on spending. You could moneyball it. You could throw as much money, as many millions as you wanted at your team. It didn't matter. There was no problems around it. There was no regulations around it at all. PSR and FFP were brought in specifically because of Chelsea. They didn't, UEFA and the big clubs in the Premier League at the time didn't want another Chelsea arriving on the scene. By the time these regulations were put in, Manchester City were just starting to get going. And obviously, they became one of the best clubs in the world, in Europe, in England, within, less than 5 years, really. And in 10 years or so, they've become this nearly unstoppable juggernaut of a winning machine. At least until very recently, anyway. They seemed absolutely impervious, really. So it is ironic, because if Abramovich tried to do what he did back in the mid-2000s with Chelsea now, for example, or were to do it with any other club, taking aside obviously all the conflict and the regulations around Russian investors, if you were to try and do what they did back then now, you wouldn't be able to do it. Look at Newcastle. Look at how much Newcastle are quote-unquote struggling to improve their team. They have to sell players to bring players in, even though they are owned by the entire state of Saudi Arabia. It doesn't matter how much money you've got in the bank, you have to find a way to get it into the club. And to do that, you have to do all these player trades and sales, which are incredibly dodgy. I don't know if you guys follow HITC7s. It's one of my favorite channels on YouTube. But Alfie did recently a video going over that and why Newcastle are trying to do these tactics, why the likes of Everton and Nottingham Forest have been caught out, why there are so many clubs, Chelsea included as well, Man City included of course, Newcastle as well, that are on the borderline of getting points deductions because they are right on the edge of PSR, because they are trying to improve their teams, and they're trying to do it by pushing the envelope as much as possible with that. So, although I do find Mourinho's comments funny, I also find them very ironic too, just to clarify that. And that's what some people have commented with as well. But there we go, guys. Those are my thoughts on the situation. What are yours? Let us know in the comments below, as always. And of course, keep subscribed to thefootballchronicle.com to see much more content on the beautiful game just like this.